Hello friends, we are going to discuss Afro-American theatre today in this Studies in Theatre MOOC program. Today's lecture is in connection with the two other theatre cultures that have been discussed in this course. Probably you will watch those videos or you may have watched those videos already. Those two are American theatre and African theatre, because what you are seeing here is a combination of two, or the collaboration between the two theatre cultures, that is Afro-American theatre. So Afro-American theatre has a connection with the past history, because Africans who were taken as slaves through transatlantic slave trade, they have been living there, and it is America is their land now, and therefore Africanism is a very innate part of American identity. The culture that has developed there because of this synthesis of various kinds of cultures is an interesting thing, and racism is in its root, because it was the racist intervention that made these Africans shift their homeland from Africa to America. So we are going to first of all today discuss what is Afro-American theatre and what are its root causes, what are the various tenets of its basic principle, basic identity. So this theatre is deeply intertwined with the systemic racism and segregation that prevailed in the United States for much of its history. So United States has had a very long history of racism, because people of United States, the land of United States of America was first colonized by the European continent, and whoever came after that has always felt some kind of hegemony of the white people. And African people were colonized for that reason, because Africa was the colony of European countries, and when Europeans started occupying the lands in American continent, they started taking Africans as slaves for various kinds of purposes as part of their expansionism. This segregation was because that existed in the early American history is because of various kinds of reasons, and it was visible in the racial segregation laws, commonly known as Jim Crow laws, that enforced racial discrimination and barred black individuals from attending or performing in many theaters, especially in the South of America. And in response to these discriminatory practices, black performers, playwrights began establishing their own performance spaces. So, creating what came to be known as black theaters. So, the root cause for the birth of African theatre, or a theatre by Africans in America, was the fact that black people were deprived of the participation in the plays and theatres that existed, that were created by the white people in America. They were barred from going there as part of the laws, which is called as Jim Crow laws. So these venues provided opportunities for African American artists to showcase their talents and their own stories, free from the constraints of white dominated theatrical institutions. So as part of their efforts to break free from these people's intervention, the racial theaters that existed and the racial laws that deprived them from going to African theater, to American theaters, they created their own space, and in that space they felt free to express what they were having as part of their life. They wanted to understand what is the world of theatre like, but they chose this medium as a matter of body which could represent their stories, their ideas. So this is significant to understand how we will, the cause of Afro-American theatre is very It's related to human rights, it's related to assertion of identity, it's related to the equality that the Africans were seeking in American land. One of the earliest examples of African American theatre is the African Groove Theatre, founded in New York City in the early 19th century by William Henry Brown. So William Henry Brown founded this African Grove Theatre, which is one of the earliest examples. The African Grove Theatre played a very important role in providing a platform to black actors and playwrights despite facing opposition and persecution from white authorities all through. And throughout the 19th and early 20th century, African American theatre continued to grow and flourish, particularly in cities with large black populations such as New York, Chicago, and Philadelphia. These theatres became hubs of cultural and artistic expressions, nurturing the talents of generations of black performers and playwrights. You can see two pictures presented here. One of them is about Grove Theatre, and this one poster that is there is first play to be performed was Shakespeare's Richard III in 1821. So this is the beginning of Afro-American theatre, the theatre by the Africans in the land of America. Moving on, the development and evolution, how this theatre developed and how it evolved over the period. So African theatre evolved alongside the broader black cultural and political movements in the United States. Obviously, when theatre is considered, theatre has to be taken into consideration with response to other cultural changes that are taking place. So the changes in culture, the evolution in culture as a response to America, the assertion of black identity, all that was taking place was also having a response and resonance in theatre culture. Harlem Renaissance of 1920s was a cultural and intellectual movement. This centered in the Harlem neighborhood of New York City. This is a very famous paradigm which is important for you to understand if you want to deeply understand the Afro-American theatre culture. You must read more about it. I will give you lists of readings in a separate lecture for all the topics that I am discussing. African American theatre played a significant role during this period, with playwrights such as Langston Hughes and Zora Neale Hurston producing influential works like that explored themes of race, identity, and social justice. So it was a time for great artistic flourishing for the African Americans because the writers, poets, musicians, and artists, they were creating works that celebrated the black culture and black identity. The development and evolution of Afro-American theatre has been shaped by complex interplay of historical, social, and cultural factors. Some of these things are, for example, during the era of slavery, enslaved Africans in America used performance and storytelling as a means of cultural expression and resistance. So despite oppressive conditions, enslaved individuals found ways to preserve elements of their African heritage through music, dance, and oral tradition. After emancipation, black performers began to establish their own theatre companies like this one, the one that I have given you example, that is the Harlem Theatre. And to look at the Harlem Renaissance of the 1920s deeper, what you can see is that this was a period or a point of departure for the cultural flourishing and artistic innovation within the black community. Black poets, musicians, writers, artists converged in Harlem, that in New York, producing groundbreaking works that celebrated the black culture and their identity. During this time, black theatre experienced a renaissance of its own, with the emergence of playwrights such as these names that I have given you, And then the civil rights movement was also an important influence on theatre, because the civil rights movement of the 1950s and 1960s sparked a wave of activism and social change, inspiring black artists and playwrights to address issues of racial injustice, segregation, and discrimination in their work. Playwrights such as Lauren Hansberry, Amiri Baraka, and James Baldwin emerged as leading voices in Afro-American theatre. We will be discussing more about these playwrights in few minutes. So I'm giving you the overall analysis of the entire term, that is Afro-American theatre. Then the Black arts movement also was there in 1960s and 70s, which was a cultural and artistic movement that sought to promote black cultural pride, self-determination, and political empowerment. So, black theatre played a central role in this movement, with artists such as Ed Boulins, Sonia Sanchez, and Nitozak Shanje producing works that celebrated black identity and black heritage. So, this black arts movement also saw the emergence of experimental and avant-garde forms of theatre as artists explored new modes of expression and challenged traditional conventions of storytelling and performance. In recent decades, Afro-American theatre has continued to evolve and diversify, and we will look at how it has diversified and what are the new things that have come into the Afro-American theatre. So the civil rights movement of the 1950s and 60s had a profound impact on African American theatre. Plays such as Lauren Hansberry's Raisin in the Sun and Amiri Baraka's Dutchman tackled themes of racial inequality and resistance, resonating with audiences and contributing to the broader struggle for civil rights. Then, emerging in the 1960s and 70s, the Black arts movement, which I already told you about, also consolidated the artistic response of the Africans in America to assert their identity. So, these performers used theatre as a platform to address pressing social and political influences, including racial segregation and discrimination and police brutalities that they were facing. In addition to this theatre played a crucial role in the entire art landscape of Africans living in America, because playwrights and performers were creating works that celebrated the black culture, their history, their spirituality, and the movement emphasized the importance of self-determination and the cultural pride, inspiring a new generation of black artists to explore their heritage and express their experiences through theatre. The other aspects of this is that in recent years we have seen that African American theatre has continued to evolve in response to contemporary social justice movements like the Black Lives Matter movement and the fight against systemic racism, because we are seeing a kind of an revival of racism all over the world, and American people, different kinds of people living in America, specifically black people, they are facing a lot of issues. So these performers have used theatre as an activism tool, and they are creating the awareness of through advocacy while writing works which portray how stereotypes are created. They are confronting injustice and they are amplifying the voices of marginalized communities across America. Black Lives Movement is especially Black Lives Matter movement, which is called as the BLM movement. It has had a significant impact on various aspects of society. And theatre is very much touched by it, because it has been a platform for social commentary for the blacks all through. And the BLM movement has sparked a wave of new plays, performances and discussions within the theatre community. Like for example, the resurgent many playwrights have written plays specifically to address the racial injustice, police brutality, and the racism that is visible in various functioning of the governments and the experiences of black individuals in the society. So these plays often become the embodiment of the documentation and portrayal of black people's problems, their day-to-day life, and they provide a visceral and a very immediate way of understanding what is happening with them. Then some theatre companies have chosen to reinterpret classic plays through a commentary lens, through a contemporary lens, because they want to revisit the issues that have already been documented in theatre through performance and dialogues, and they want to revisit them along with the fresh addition of pain and atrocities. So this is infusing these plays with themes and perspectives of contemporary times related to the BLM movement, and this involves casting choices, directorial decisions, and adaptations of the original text to highlight the issues of race and inequality. So as I said, that theatre is used as a space for community engagement and dialogue surrounding issues raised by the BLM movement. This also involves post-show discussions, talkbacks with artists, workshops, or other events designed to foster conversation and reflection. So it has become, this is a very postmodernist kind of a portrayal that we are seeing now, because playwrights and performers love to have a discussion with people after the play. And in Afro-American theatre also, post-show discussion, feedback, and collecting more and more stories of people is also being seen and observed. So BLM movement therefore has increased attention to the need for diversity and representation within the theatre industry. Many theatre companies and organizations have committed to supporting black artists by producing their work, providing mentorship and resources for them, and advocating a change in the entire industry of theatre. So, in all sense, this movement can be considered a very constructive paradigm that is inspiring good theatre, that is giving new life to the theatre of protest, theatre of resistance, and therefore leading to a creation of entire new body of works, especially in this context. Now, as I talked about these playwrights, like Amiri Baraka, James Baldwin, George C. Wolfe, Terrell Alvin McCraney, and Pearl Cleage. So these are some examples of very well-known people. Amiri Baraka was a very influential playwright, a black playwright and political activist, poet. He often tackled issues of race, class, politics in America. His plays such as The Dutchman and The Slave are known for their provocative exploration of race relations and black identity. He was also a key figure in the black arts movement, which sought to create art that reflected the experiences and struggles of black Americans. So Amiri Baraka is a very well-known name, and many of his works are easily available. So you should try to explore him further in order to understand what sort of plays have actually initiated or rather enriched the Afro-American theatre. Then James Baldwin was a very prolific writer whose work encompassed essays, novels, and plays. While he is perhaps best known for his novels such as Go Tell It on the Mountain and The Fire Next Time, but he also wrote several plays, including Blues for Mr. Charlie and The Emin Corner. His work often delved into the themes of race, sexuality, identity, and he celebrated for his powerful exploration of the black experience in America. Similarly, George C. Wolfe, who is a playwright and director known for his groundbreaking work in the American theatre, he has written and directed numerous plays, including the Colored Museum and the Jelly's Last Jam. And Wolf's work often explore issues of race, history, and cultural identity, and he is renowned for his innovative storytelling techniques and bold artistic vision. Then talking about Terrell L.V. McCraney, who is a playwright and screenwriter, and his work often focuses on the experiences of black queer individuals. He is best known for his play Choir Boy and for co-writing the screenplay of the Academy Award winning film Moonlight. McCraney's work is celebrated for its lyrical language, emotional depth, and exploration of complex themes of identity and belonging. Then Pearl Cleage is a playwright, but he's also a novelist, an activist known for her insightful explorations of race, gender, and politics. Her plays such as Blues for an Alabama Sky and Flying West often center on the experiences of black women and their struggles for empowerment and self-determination. Cleage's work is celebrated for its vibrant characters, rich dialogue, and powerful storytelling. These playwrights have made significant contributions to black theatre, challenging audience to confront issues of race, identity, and social justice through their thought-provoking work. So you can see that these different kinds of playwrights have written about racism, about the different kinds of prejudices that exist in American society, the bad experiences that they had, their families and their friends, their community had, despite the fact that they have such an important role in making America what it is today. The journeys that they have had are very painful to look at and to understand how human nature, human mind works if racism interferes in it, and how people can become indoctrinated with such kinds of misbeliefs. So all these things have been portrayed in Afro-American theatre. This is all that kind of theatre which initiated to document these kinds of things only, and then of course it evolved with time. Its representation, its presentation evolved for various purposes and for the different kinds of things that are visible. Then when we look at these are the various sources that I have used in my discussion. So all that I have to say about this lecture, this discussion, is that you need to initiate your studies into Afro-Americanism or Afro-American identity by not only studying American theatre and African theatre, but also studying the history of America and how America enslaved, how in America slave trade used to take place, and how this slave trade had such an important role in black people's lives, how they became rich or poor or rich. In both ways this has happened, how they have contributed to the various aspects of American life, American identity, America's nationhood, and how different kinds of social activism, cultural movements have happened. So all this spectrum of different kinds of issues connected to the black people are represented in the plays that I have discussed with you and the playwrights that I have discussed with you. Now I take you further into the different lecture where I will continue with some more discussion on this topic. So the links that I have used from various sources are these links. It's a long list of pictures that I have provided you because these pictures give you a certain idea about the whole ethos and the representation that has to take place. So thank you very much. This is for now. I meet you in a different lecture. That's it for now. Bye.